Hello, welcome to the 51st edition of Drive-Thru Review. Today I'm going to talk about Blood Bowl. I'm going to show you components from the 3rd edition, which is the latest edition you can buy from Games Workshop. I'm going to go over the rules a little bit, just a tiny bit. The rules are relatively involved. They're not too bad once you get into it. This is sort of a mini board game with minis, that you move around. And you're playing sort of like football, but more like rugby, but kind of neither. This is not my copy of the game, actually. I borrowed it from a friend of mine. So actually, I'm going to be running a contest to give this game away. So if you just want to leave a comment underneath, I'm obviously kidding. So, no, it's not my game. I have a friend of mine that's in the Blood Bowl League, and they play at the local shop there sometimes, and I watched them play a few games, and we sat down and played a game, and I played the new card game. The time this video is being made, I played Blood Bowl Team Manager and quite like that game, and so I said, show me what this is all about, this Blood Bowl stuff. And like I said before, he's got a league, and that's kind of really what the game's really about. But let me first show you some of the mechanics and just some of how the actual game flow is going to work, and then I'll come back and talk a little bit about some of the extracurricular activities that go on around Blood Bowl that kind of make it, be what it's going to be. And really kind of the whole point of Blood Bowl is more beyond just actually playing the actual physical board game itself. So let me just cut it off right here. I'll show you a little bit of the game, and then I'll come back and talk a little bit more. Now here I've got a basic setup right before kickoff, but before I get into too much of the rules here, let me just show you a little bit about what you get with the basic, 3rd edition box that you'll be buying. You get 2 teams. You get the orcs and the humans. They're made up of different character types. I'll go into those in just a second. Each player is going to get one of these mats here, and these are for recording the turn. Which turn you're on. So this will move up. So each half is 8 turns per player. So a total of 16 turns per half. You've got 12 men, so to speak, in your team with the basic teams, and then each of you is going to have 1 left over because there's only 11 men on the field, and so you keep 1 on the reserves here. Now it's possible during a game for a guy to get knocked out or even be killed or injured, and so you'll place them here. And then each team is going to get a certain number of rerolls that they can use per half. So with the basic teams here, you can see the orc team gets 3 rerolls and the human team gets 4 rerolls. And it's going to give you some statistics on these charts here about what the different types of players on your team are going to have, like throwers and blitzers, and then linemen. In the case of orcs, black orcs. And in the case of humans, you've got catchers there. So here you can see a human lineman and an orc lineman. And these are sort of your generic players that are just sort of kind of good at everything. And so the majority of your team, at least early on, is going to be made up of linemen here. And here you've got an orc thrower and a human thrower. Obviously these guys are good at throwing the ball. But to keep in mind is that anybody can throw the ball. This isn't really necessarily like football. It's more like, it's kind of like rugby. It's not really exactly like anything. I guess you could say it's like Blood Bowl. But these guys will be your better passers here. And here's an orc blitzer and a human blitzer, and these are they're sort of like linemen. They're kind of good at everything, but these are better linemen. These are like upgraded linemen. These guys are good at everything. And here we've got sort of the difference between the human team and the orc team, the basic teams. Here you've got a black orc, and these guys are really good at smashing the other players. And here we've got a human catcher. And so he's pretty quick. He's pretty good at getting out of tackle zones and running and catching the ball. So he's more of an agility-based character, and he's more of a strength-based character. Most of the time you're going to be doing agility checks in the game, but when it comes to blocking or knocking other players down, you're going to be checking strength. Now, in addition to all the little minis you're going to get, the little tokens, the dice, the football, the player mats, all the charts, you're going to get this nice rule book here, and you're probably going to throw this right out because this is only 3rd edition rules, and I believe it's up to 5th or 6th edition rules now. So you want to go and get the latest rules and print this sucker out. Now you're also going to get a big old pad of these sheets here where you're going to write down your characters on the team, what type of position they are, any special skills they may have, and what their statistics are. Strength, movement ability, agility. There's also some great files you can get on Board Game Geek and other websites to print out some of the modifier tables, the result tables. Here you've got the kickoff table all in one nice column, injury tables, etc. Weather tables, you're going to roll weather before the game starts. Just about anything you can think of, you're going to make a roll for, and then play your game. Now there's a couple of these sort of overlay things here. So for example, when a ball lands in a spot here, you're going to lay this sucker down here over the grid or the hex, and then roll to see which way the ball bounces. Now here's the sideline one. If the ball goes out of bounds here, you're going to roll which direction it goes, and then the length of it. And so this is the type of game where it could go out here, and then the crowd's going to basically take the ball, throw it back into the playing field here, or the pitch. But it's possible that they could throw it all the way over here to this crowd, and then this crowd could throw it all the way over there, and then the ball's going to end up over here, even though, you know, it just went out over here. So that's kind of a funny aspect of the game. And then lastly, you have this passing sort of ruler thing. And so if somebody's passing it, you're going to put this little hole over the top of them. And if they're doing a quick pass, if the guy's within a certain distance there, you're going to modify the die roll based on where it's at in this measuring stick. That's a sort of basic overview of what you kind of get in the box to begin with. Now what you can see here is I've got the orc team on the left and the human team on the right. Now whoever, you flip a coin to figure out who's going to kick off, and then the person that's kicking off set up first. So you need at least 3 guys on the line of scrimmage here in the center, and this line of scrimmage in this case would just be the center 50-yard line, so to speak. And you can't have any more than 2 on these side bands here and then up here. Otherwise you can pretty much set it up how you want. So the kicking team sets up first, and the other side sets up their side, and then you're going to roll 2d6 here to do the kickoff. And there's a kickoff table in the rule book there, and it just a whole lot of different chaotic things that can happen. The kicker actually picks where they want the ball to go. So they'll pick where they want the ball to go. And see here's a little tiny ball with the spikes there. That's pretty neat. So they'll pick where that's going to go, and maybe have it land there. And then there's a whole bunch of different rules about the kickoffs. I'm not going to get into that. So the ball could land there. And whenever you've got a free ball or a fumble or a drop pass or something like that, you're going to take this little masking thing here, lay that on there, and then you're going to roll a 1d8. And then you're going to see that the ball was going to roll a certain direction. So if we do this, if that's our true north there, the ball's going to move over here to this section. So let's just set up a little bit of a scenario here. Let's say the ball has landed here, and now it's the Orcs player's turn. What you're going to do on a turn is you're going to take an action for each of the guys on your team. Now you're going to keep taking actions until you've done an action for each of your guys, or you've failed at an action. As soon as you fail at something, no matter what it is that you failed at, you failed a roll or you fell down and got injured or whatever it is, your turn's going to end right away. So all the rest of the unactivated players on your team aren't going to get to do anything. So the trick to that is to take your low risk actions first, get them out of the way, and then start building more and more till you get to a high risk action. And what people usually do, is a couple ways to do it, is basically, let's say I took an action with this orc and then I'm going to turn it like this, or maybe turn it backwards or face me or something like that to show that I've activated that particular character. So I don't want to get too much into the minutia here, because there is a lot of minutia. And I think for the purposes of a video, it's pointless to go over it, because you're just going to forget it right away. You're going to basically roll tons of dice here to do checks. But I just want to show you a couple things that you can do without getting into how all the modifiers work. See, one thing you can do is move. So in this case, though, if I'm moving, I'm in this guy's tackle zone, okay? And I'll talk a little bit more about tackle zones in a second. So I've got to make an agility roll to get out of his tackle zone. But you can basically move up to the movement value of the character. So another aspect to movement is if you use up your movement point, then you can roll 2 times. And if you roll a 1 on any of those 2 times, then your guy's going to trip and fall and get injured, probably. Or he can go an extra space, and that's kind of fun because, you know, maybe a guy's got the ball and he's got a clear path to the end zone, and you're going to push that luck, and he may trip and fall at the last second and die or something. So one thing you can do is block, or that's basically knock somebody down. So I could choose, if I was the orc player, to try to knock him down. Well, each of these miniatures projects sort of a zone of control or a tackle zone. Any kind of war gamer, or obviously a mini gamer, will understand that. So if I'm trying to tackle him, well, these two are exerting a zone of control, but they're also in this guy's zone of control for tackling. So in this case, if he was back here, like so, then if he was trying to block this center guy, these two guys would add an assist on top of him. You normally would roll one tackle dice depending on how many modifiers or assisters you had there, and then if you had more, then you'd roll two. Let's say in this case, because I'm outnumbering, even though he's attacking, I'm outnumbering him, I'm going to roll two, but then the defender's going to choose. And so there's a couple of different things that'll happen here. So what are some of the actions that'll happen when you tackle? So if I rolled this, or this was chosen out of the two possible dice, then this one would mean the attacker actually fell down. And so that would be an end to my turn immediately, because that was a failure, and then he would be down. And then what you're going to do, if somebody goes down, is you're actually going to roll to see if they get injured, and then you're going to roll again on top of that to see how badly they're injured, or maybe they were killed, etc. Now if you rolled this one here, this would be both of them going down. This one would be just a push, so the guy would just be pushed back. This one would be a tackle there, and he'd still get pushed back in basically the direction of the push, like so. And then this one is pretty much the same, but if the defender had the dodge skill, then it would be able to do a dodge roll for that. And so it's feasible that when you push the guy, or tackle the guy, push him, knock him down, you can actually take ground on them. So that's sort of a war game mechanic there. Now, in addition to moving and then blocking, you can also do a blitz with one of your guys, and that's to move and block. Normally you can only move or block. So I can move in here and then make a block. So you can see that tactically, as more and more of these guys are going to be laid out on the field differently, you're going to need to take a nice approach to get weave in and out of these different tackling zones, and try to create areas of control on the board to prevent that, and obviously protect your runners and your passers here who might have the ball. So let's say I moved in here, and I'm going to make agility rolls to see if I can pick up the ball, because these guys are all a bunch of klutzes apparently. And so he's going to try to pick up the ball, and then if you pass, which is sort of the last thing you can do, you get your little ruler out there, and then you make your passing roll. So you fail at any of these, your turn's over, and then you just keep going and going and going. Now another aspect is your guy could get pushed out of bounds and then possibly get ripped apart by the crowd and killed as well. One last thing you can do that I forgot about is that you can actually foul a down player. So if this guy's down, you can actually roll to foul him and try to purposely injure this player. There's a chance that you will get a referee will get a penalty called on you, and this guy will be ejected from the game though. So you can purposefully try to jack him up as much as you want there. So I've got kind of a mess of figures here, but it's really sort of different tactical areas of, I'm trying to control the ball, I'm trying to move the ball down and score touchdowns, and I'm also trying to injure your players and take him out of the game without actually losing any of my players. So it has a real sort of miniature melee based tactical kind of war game aspect to it, in addition to trying to push your flag or push your ball all the way down. Positioning is very important, smart movement is very important, protecting the ball, protecting the passers, protecting the runners. But that's sort of a basic sort of outline of what you're going to be focused on while you're playing the game. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the overview of the game. You can see it's sort of a real kind of tactical, miniatures game, contained inside a board. You can see that your players are going to get injured, they're going to get hurt. You're going to have to deal with a lot of sort of randomness. When the ball goes out of bounds, it comes back in any which way. When the ball lands, it's going to bounce any which way. When you kick it off, you're going to roll 2d6. You're going to roll dice for the weather, etc., etc. But there's a real sort of role-playing aspect to this, and sort of a community aspect to this that kind of goes beyond the board game. You've got to manage your team. If you start a league, you're going to pick your team out. You can get several different teams from Games Workshop. You can order like Lizardmen packs and all kinds of other packs of different guys. Skavens, all kinds of stuff, and you can paint them all your own. Some leagues require that you paint them all in a uniform color so that you can easily identify your team. And then when you manage your team, and you're going to lose guys from your team. You've got to deal with that. But you know, when your guys do good in the game, when they score touchdowns, when they get interceptions, they throw completed passes, they get sort of like experience points, and they can level up. So they can become sort of a star player, and you can go up multiple levels of stardom, so to speak. So there's that aspect to it as well. You know, like any kind of miniatures game, you've got a certain number of points and gold that you can use to build your team with. You can buy apothecaries, like little potions and things like that, to enhance your team. Some teams are really good at cheating the game. Some teams have, like, you know, weapons and items that they bring with them into the game to help them cheat. So I think the game, personally, from the little bit that I've played of it and that I've watched play and kind of seen the environment that at least the league here locally has, is a pretty fun game. It's a little bit too kind of grind into the minutia of tactics and stats and record keeping, I think, for me to really love the game, but I did like playing it. And it's tactically, there's some real kind of interesting decisions on the field, so that aspect is really good. And then the other part of it is sort of that sort of game away from the game, where you're sort of thinking about the game, you're thinking about your team. You know, it's kind of akin to like Magic the Gathering or some other trading card game where you're thinking about, okay, this is my league, this is my metagame environment, you know, these are the kind of players I want to add to the team, etc. like that. Anyway, we were talking about it, and there wasn't really a good, you know, sort of intro video or discussion video, and the card game, the team manager's fun, so I said, what the heck? Let's do a video on Blood Bowl. So, hope it was of some use to you. Thanks.